Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome an accomplished and respected coach from the world of technology from the Netherlands, Mr. Wormgoor. Mark, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me.
Thank you. Mark is the founder and CEO of Tairi, Tairi. So, Mark, before we start talking about technology and coaching, a few questions for you. Tell me about your journey and what was the inspiration to go into the world of technology and coaching?
Yes, thank you for that question. So, technology, it's been a while. I've been in technology for 30 years, and this is something that happened in the 90s, actually. I was after high school, I decided what I was going to study. I decided to study physics, and after 2 or 3 years in physics, that really wasn't my thing. It was very mathematical, and it really didn't turn out to be my studies.
Mm.
At that point, I had no idea what I was going to do. Dropped out of university, and I loved tinkering with PCs and technology, and I got into tech.
Mm.
Almost for lack of a better option at that point. But
Okay.
it's been 30 years, and I've loved everything I've done over the past 30 years, and everything that I've done. So it's not been a bad decision,
Yeah.
and it's not been a bad thing dropping out of university. It's turned out
Fabulous.
really well.
Fabulous. And from managing IT teams and consulting to coaching top tech executives, what was the motivation to do this?
So it started when I was still, I think about 6, 7 years ago. I was in working for JD, big coffee and tea company. I was working in technology, IT operations and security. And more, I got questions from people, not even in my own team, but also in other teams for support, for feedback. And they just asked me for help. Like, Mark, I have this other situation with this person that I'm dealing with. What should I do? What can I do? Or Mark, I've gotten this feedback from my own manager, and I'm just looking for some outside advice. What do I go do next?
Mm.
And out of all my work, those are actually the conversations that I like the most. Being able to help people, give them very practical advice, give them feedback, and yeah, just be a confidence in their journey.
Mm.
That's how it all started. When I left that role in 2020, I actually decided that if I want to do more, I need to do a coaching training. So
Mm.
I did a formal coaching training in 2020, 2021, midst of COVID. It's quite
Mm.
tough.
Mm.
And I decided on a formal ICF training. So that's when I also learned to be a coach. Initially, it wasn't even the idea that I wanted to be a coach.
Mm.
I wanted to build a tech business, and I have as well. So in Tairi, we also do a lot of tech, but it keeps coming back that I just love giving advice to people and love helping other people in their careers and whatever it is that they do.
Thank you. And tell me now about Tairi. Tairi, I'm sure, is an acronym, and I could make out it has something to do with technology and AI. But tell me about technology and what are you doing in this amazing company?
So Tairi is actually, it's not an acronym, which is
Oh, it is.
funny. I was looking for a company name and I wanted something that didn't show up on Google, right? It hasn't been claimed. There was
Okay.
nothing showing up on Google.
Uh-huh.
And Tairi in Greek actually means something like partnership, working together. So that's really why I love the name and why it came up when I was looking for a new name.
Oh.
What we do at Tairi, we do different things. So the first, we do a lot of strategy advisory work for medium-sized businesses, and that's all in the technology space. So
Mm.
we help these businesses figure out how to support their business strategy with technology,
Mm.
and how they can build out their tech capability over 1, 2, 3 years.
Mm.
Second, as part of that, and often combined, we also do executive coaching for leaders in tech. So in those same businesses, and also in larger and smaller businesses, actually, there's a lot of leaders in tech that could use support with their growth, that want to ramp up their career, learn more about leadership, and that is also what we do. Third, we also do some delivery projects. So we have an offshore team in the Philippines, and together with them, we do software delivery projects or other projects as well.
Mm. Fascinating. Let's talk about Tairi then. And your byline, I think, is making technology and AI integral to strategic decision making. My first question relating to Tairi, Mark, is what mindset shifts are required for traditional leaders to embrace technology as a strategic function?
So I think the good thing about this AI hype that we're going through is that a lot of traditional leaders are already starting to see the value of technology and what it might be able to do for their business. They don't know where to start or how to actually go about and do that. But there is so much more. I mean, in the past, like 5 years ago, technology was really a separate corner of the universe almost, and businesses did their own thing. But the whole AI hype, that's changing. And everybody's seeing that if I need to do something, I want to do something with technology, I probably should look at that for my business. So I think that that first shift has almost happened because of the hype. And I think that's a good thing. The next question that all these leaders have is where do I start? And that is a really difficult place, of course. And I think the first thing for almost any leader is to find somebody, a partner in technology, somebody that they can really work with in a technology space. A lot of these businesses already have a CTO or a CIO and make better use of them. In the past, we saw a lot of these technology leaders, they take care of the ERP applications, they take care of the laptops and the desktops and the printers and the meeting rooms. And that's all that they really were, I'd say, allowed to do almost. And I think these people can play a very strategic role in the business. And that's really also my mission, my personal mission is to put technology into the boardroom and help these tech leaders that are often already there in these businesses, get them a seat at the board table to talk about business strategy and how to combine business and tech strategy together.
Amazing. But for my viewers and listeners, what does it truly mean to embed technology into business strategy?
And that's a really good question. For me, business strategy is, well, it's not very simple, but it's a very simple concept because what you want to do, you want to grow revenue, you want to grow maybe EBIT. And as part of that, how are you going to do that? Are you going to ramp up on marketing, on sales, or optimize your supply chain or whatever, right? But strategy talks about solving all these different business challenges that businesses have. Technology could be potentially a part of the solution to that. So for me, it is putting tech into that business strategy discussions. As a business leadership team, as a board, a sales leader, marketing, finance, HR leaders, they have discussions on their strategy, on the future strategy of the business. Technology should be an integral part of those discussions. And I think that's the place to start when you talk about your plan for the next 3 to 5 years. How are we going to ramp up our marketing, our sales? How are we going to increase our EBIT, our gross profit margins? How can technology support that? And get your technology leader in the room and make them a part of those discussions. And I think that's the key to having those discussions.
Great response. But based on all the companies that you have supported, what in your view are some of the barriers that prevent companies from elevating technology to a strategic level?
I think that, and this is a very human aspect of leadership. If you ask a marketing leader, and this is an example that comes up quite a lot, if you ask a marketing leader to go and increase their marketing to generate more leads perhaps, or to generate their visibility in the market, they're going to do that. And they are going to figure out how to do that with what they already know. So their first instinct isn't, I'm going to talk to other people in the business. I'm going to talk to my technology leader. The first instinct is, what do I know about marketing and how do I go about my marketing growth? And I think that is really what needs to change. It's that marketing leader needs to sit down with their technology leader and have a discussion together. What is the way to go about this? And how can we actually grow our marketing, our visibility, our lead gen together? And what role can AI or technology play in that growth?
Yeah, well said. We spoke a little bit about AI in a few minutes back, and AI seems to be sweeping up every company, every leader, every business. How should leaders approach adoption of AI without being swept by the hype?
Yes. And again, it's a great question because I see that I coach a lot of technology leaders and I see this from the other side as well. So I see business leaders, I see CEOs, they go to the technology leaders and say, we need to do more with AI. They don't know what, they don't know how, or don't know where, but they're reading this in the papers, they're hearing this on the news, they're seeing this online, and they're saying, we have to do more with AI. without fully understanding what AI is and what AI is capable of,
Correct.
or where to go and apply it in the business. And for a lot of technology leaders, this is a very frustrating place to be in. So the way to look at AI is not as a solution, but to actually see, or it's not as a tool, because that's what it is. It's to look at it as a tool. Figure out what are the problems that you have. And again, let's go back to these business challenges. Do you want to grow marketing? Do you want to grow sales? And how can AI play a role in each of those different areas? Should it play a role in finance? Maybe not. Should it play a role in your operations, in your supply chain? And what can it actually do to increase your revenue, to increase your efficiencies, and to make your whole business operate better and do better, instead of just saying, we have to do more with AI, which doesn't really mean anything.
Yeah. And do you see a need for a change of culture in an organization to successfully integrate AI at a strategic level?
I do. And I think there's a lot of different cultural changes that are needed. The first we already talked about, and it's really the collaboration. It's that the different business leaders need to go and collaborate with each other and with technology to make this a success. The second is very much in technology itself and how we approach technology. As little as 5 years ago, we used to approach technology as we're going to run these large-scale long programs. We're going to implement a new CRM system, and we're going to take a year to actually implement that system. We're going to do a requirements gathering, an RFP. We're going to select a vendor. We're going to contract. That takes about 6 to 9 months. Then we need to select something, an implementation, which can take another 6 to 9 months. A year and a half, 2 years later, we've actually have something up and running. And I think what's really changing now is that we can't take a year, 2 years to run a project anymore. We need to be a lot more agile in the things that we do. That also means it's going to be far less expensive. It's going to be a lot smaller what we do. But we need a return on investment or an implementation much faster. You need to have something up and running and prove that something works in well, you can do it in a week, but let's, for business sake, say 2 months, 3 months. You need to prove that something works. You can't run 2-year, 3-year programs anymore. I think that's a thing of the past.
Well said.
So agility, and with that is a very difficult thing. It's also the ability to change and to adapt. So as humans, we love a comfortable environment where there is not too much change, where things are stable. We have fixed processes. We know how we work, and we're going to continue doing the same thing that we did in the past. What's really changing now is that is no longer an option. We need to continuously change and adjust and adopt new things and keep changing and keep moving and keep adjusting. That goes against the nature of a lot of people, but that is the reality of technology development in 2025.
Great response. But do you also see the fact that CEOs and their leadership have to work with AI and technology, and yet how do they align their core business with all the needs of AI and technology?
Yeah, and I think for these leaders, that's also a big change. A CEO in the past didn't have to know much about technology. A CFO, a sales director, a marketing director, a supply chain director, they didn't really have to know a lot about technology, even if already in 2020, 2015, there was a lot of underpinning technology under the business. I mean, the ERPs that run the business, the supply chain tools, the marketing and the sales tools, the websites that they had, it was already there, but it really wasn't up to them to understand fully how that all worked. What's changing now is that all these other leaders need to get a much better grip on technology and what technology can do for the business and how it works, what the capabilities are, and how to make that all function in the business. And again, I think this is the role of the technology leader to educate the others as well. So for the technology leader to be part of that leadership team and to educate, to explain to all these other leaders what technology is capable of, how it works, to share news, to talk to them about new innovations coming out, about new models even, about what other businesses are doing to do the research, what other businesses are doing with AI, and to bring that all back internally to all these other leaders. So these other leaders, they need to step up on technology. The technology leaders, the people that I often coach, they need to scale up their their business skills. So understanding how the rest of the business works, their stakeholder management skills, their board communication skills. That is really, and that's my part of what I do. But I think also these other leaders really need to have a better grip on technology.
Well said. And what is your view on the role of cross-functional collaboration to embed technology in decision making?
Yeah, and I think that's my whole point. Getting these technology leaders in the boardroom. We see that these boardrooms, well, even their boards don't meet that often. Even in most companies, boards tend to meet every month or every quarter. I think that collaboration needs to get a lot closer now. And also that collaboration with the technology function needs to get a lot closer. So meeting more often, brainstorming about options and adoption a lot more often, and talking to each other, making that a very close-knit leadership team with technology as a key pillar.
Amazing. What advice would you give to a board member or a leader who is hesitant about investing deeply in AI or technology strategy?
So I think the good thing about AI and technology strategy is that it's not even that expensive. So most of the AI tools that we see today are under a SaaS pricing model. It doesn't have to cost 100,000 or 1 million. You can get a lot of models for and test a lot of models for 20, 30, $200 a month. I think where to start there is start from these business problems. From these business problems, figure out, is technology something that we could potentially use to address these problems? And from there on, run a small pilot. And you can run a small pilot with all the manpower involved and maybe a vendor. A lot of vendors do this for free, but even then for 5K, 10K, you can run a small pilot and figure out if there is a return on investment. Does it work? How does it work for us? If you prove that it works, then you can scale it up. So you don't have to invest a large sum of money into AI to prove that it can solve a business problem or not. The same is true for tech strategy. I think a lot that I talked about is just the collaboration and making technology a part of that boardroom. Even a whole tech strategy exercise that we do, it's not even that expensive. I mean, of course, if you're going to run it with a McKinsey or a Bain or a Boston Consulting, it's going to get more expensive. But if you do that with a very good consultant, it doesn't have to be that expensive. You can run an exercise like that in a couple of months and really figure out how to integrate your technology into your business strategy.
Very interesting. But do you see any ethical implications of AI in business strategy?
I do, and there's quite a few. And I think if we read the news, there's a lot of discussions about all the ethical sides of it. I'm based in Europe. In Europe, we're working on the EU AI Act, which is trying to address some of those. And it's going to be interesting how this all plays out. I think the first couple really is about all the data that we collect. So we're often seeing these incidences where businesses are trying to collect a lot more data than they probably should and wanting to use that for AI training. I think a week or two ago, we had WeTransfer, which is a simple file transfer tool in the news. And they said we can use all the data that you transfer for our own AI training models. They came back on that. There was a lot of noise in the news, and they came back on that in about a week or two. But I think almost every business today is trying to figure out how can we collect more data and do that to train our AI models. And I think that's a really critical part to be aware of how that's going to look in the market and if that is actually something you can do also under privacy laws, but other ethical laws as well. So I think that's one. The second to that is all the copyright notices that we're seeing. So a lot of newspapers aren't very happy with all their data, their articles being collected for training AI models. There's a lot of lawsuits going on, and I don't know where that's going to end up. Nobody really knows where that's going to end up. But be careful around copyright because there's a lot of lawsuits happening at the moment. And I think the second part to that is then the impact of implementing AI models. So when you implement an AI model, it can make a lot of decisions that maybe you don't want it to. So already in the EU, we're restricting the kind of decisions that it can make. We're seeing, and as an example, we're seeing AI is getting embedded in recruitment tools, in ATS tools. In tools like that, AI can very simply say, we don't like this candidate or we do like that candidate. And we have no idea what those decisions are sometimes based on. One example, and this is in my field, If you ask AI to generate an image of a CTO, that image will, I'd say, almost always be a male person. In reality, that's not the case. In reality, 10, 20, maybe 30% is female. But ask AI to generate that image, it's going to be male. If you apply that same logic maybe to an ATS, it's a possibility, and I haven't seen that actually happens, but it's a possibility that the ATS is going to say, we're going to reject this person for a CTO role because she's female, or because she comes from this background, or because he comes from this background. And those are the kind of decisions that you don't want an AI to make. So being absolutely careful with the decisions that are made, and any decisions that impacts a human person, that impacts a human life, should still be made by humans. So make sure that there's always human oversight on the decisions that are made by AI.
Great response. Mark, I have time for two more questions. As AI continues to evolve, how do you envision the role of tech leadership changing?
So, and this is, I think a lot of tech leaders are struggling with this, and a lot of board leaders. And it's the examples that I already gave. We have these CEOs, board leaders that say, we want you technology to implement AI and solve all of this for them. And we have these technology leaders that don't know where to start and don't know how to solve AI for the whole business. So I think that technology is going to be a critical board level function from now on. We're seeing that change, and already in some businesses, in a lot of industries. It's not the norm yet. In some others, like finance, it's already becoming more normal. But I think in almost all industries, you will see that technology is going to be a standard board function next to sales, marketing, finance, HR, legal. So I think that's a big shift that you're going to see over the next couple of years.
Well said. And my last question for you, how can future generations of leaders be better prepared to lead in a tech-driven world?
I think, and let's talk about the board members, learn more, read more and learn more, and surround yourself with the right people. And I think that is really important. As a business leader, you can't be expected to know everything about AI or to know everything about all the new models that come out or what other businesses are doing. Make sure that you have the right people around you, maybe the right external vendors around you, maybe the right internal people in your technology team, but maybe some external advisors, a mentor, I don't know, but build a community around yourself of people that really, really understand AI, that follow the news, that follow the new models, that understand everything that's happening in the world, so that if you have a question, you can ask them. Don't get caught by surprise by what's happening out there in the world.
Very well said. And on that note, Mark, I just want to say thank you for such a fabulous conversation. I think we covered some amazing ground on how AI is beginning to not just change the world, but it is pushing a lot of leaders to be able to understand it better and to be able to implement it better. And I would imagine also, as you said so correctly, beginning to give technology leaders a place at the main table along with the rest of the board members. Thank you so much for speaking to me, and good luck to you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.